Alright guys, so we have spoken about the data controller yesterday, and of course naturally we're going to speak today about the data processor. Now understanding the concept and the relationships between controller and processor is insanely important, and we're going to start with the first slide being exactly the same as when we were explaining data controller. Why? Because we really want to understand, and I'm going to repeat it again and again perhaps in a lot of videos, that purpose is the key word when it comes to privacy legislation. The reason for that is that we already know that all the personal data which you have, whether you're going to a doctor and you're getting a GDPR, a signature form, and you have to give your data, for example, your date of birth, your name, your address, all of that. The doctor has to collect that data from you, or any other form of data collection. For example, in a direct email marketing campaign, when somebody is asking for your email address for a certain purpose, usually that purpose, and I always like to call the fact that the word purpose can actually be translated in business terms as value. The purpose is actually the value which you create for your audience in the end of the day, which is why you need to process their personal data. Maybe for the purposes of one of your business activities. However, you need to come up with a legal basis, and that is actually another very important thing. Data processor does not need a legal basis. The data controller needs a legal basis, and that brings me to the first point, that a data processor is a company that processes personal data on instruction of a data controller. The data controller is the entity that needs a legal basis in accordance to Article 6 GDPR and sets the purpose and promise to the customer. If you're a data controller, you are the one who sets that purpose, and if you're a data processor, you are just working under instruction of the data controller. Now, what does that actually mean? Let me give you an example. I'm going to take the example of us, of #marketection, and we actually send direct emails to our audience, whoever wants to receive them, bi-weekly, so every second week, for example, right? #marketection processes your email address for the purposes of direct marketing every second week through ConvertKit services. Now, we as #marketection, because we asked our audience to share their data with us, if they trust that we are going to be providing them with enough value, enough information that is going to help them in their day-to-day business lives, then they can go ahead and sign up for our newsletter. But for that purpose, we need their email address, and for that they need to consent that yes, they want to have that value from us, and at the same time we need the legal basis of consent. We cannot just say, oh yes, we have a legitimate interest to start spamming our audience, because we don't know if they want our emails or not. And yes, there are however circumstances where you perhaps don't need a certain base of your audience to give you consent, but we're going to come to that to other videos, and I highly, especially the marketers out there, the business leaders out there, I highly recommend that video of double opt-ins, single opt-ins, and we're going to explain to you as well direct marketing campaigns where you don't need any kind of opt-in at all. We're going to speak about legitimate interest. So these are the kind of things we are going to be discussing on this channel. Very, very important. So in the example of us, of #marketection, taking your email address, the legal basis which we need is consent, and the purpose is serving our audience with enough valuable information, which is the direct marketing. And perhaps the next step, if you even think it further, and that is actually where you make the difference between companies who understand the GDPR and companies who don't understand the GDPR and just ticking boxes for the sake of not getting on the radar of the data protection authorities. The reason for that is the next step would be thinking ahead, okay, why am I doing direct marketing campaigns? Because of course at one point perhaps somebody's interested to us and want to talk to us about a business relationship. That would be the next step of the funnel. However, that legal basis, that purpose is another step, and now here you again need another purpose, another legal basis. It's a separate data processing activity. So yes, a marketing funnel is just a chain of data processing activities, and for every single segment you literally need purpose and legal basis. At the same time, here in our example, ConvertKit is a reputable data processor. So we subscribe to a service of ConvertKit to actually send our audience emails. So we cannot, or I cannot sit here and send out so many emails every single day. So ConvertKit says, okay, we will do that for you. They don't need a legal basis. They don't need a purpose, because I'm in charge of the data of my audience. So if one of our audiences were to complain about any of the emails we send to them, even though ConvertKit did the processing activity, the complaint would need to come to us, because we are accountable for that. We are responsible for that. Not always liable, because we have data processing agreements for that, and we're actually going to give you a pro tip later on at the end of the video how you can leverage this one as well. In other words, data processors are just supporting the data controller in providing the purpose to the consumer. The data controller is fully accountable, not always liable, to ensure GDPR rights. So what you could think of as the processor is just helping the controller. They're both under the GDPR one party, or they're subject to the same party, which is the party that took your personal data to earn money and to provide some kind of value to you. Now a third party, for example, would be a company. If we decide to share your data for another purpose, and again, purpose will always keep coming up, especially when it comes to privacy legislations, because again, we can't do just something for sake of doing something. Data controllers must have a data processing agreement with the data processors to instruct the data processor on how to execute the personal data and trust it to the data controller. Therefore, the data processor does not need a legal basis of processing. However, because the data processor and the data controller under GDPR are the one and the same party, it's very important to define the relationship between data processors and data controllers, because you in the end are accountable. So you as a marketeer, for example, or me as a marketeer, I perhaps want to have a look at the DPA which the ConvertKit provides to its customers, which would be me. So I would look at that. Okay, when would they delete data? If somebody from my audience says, you know what, hashtag marketection, you're not making any sense. I don't want to subscribe to your newsletter anymore. You're not giving me that purpose or that value anymore. I want to unsubscribe. Is ConvertKit actually going to delete that data, or are they going to use that data for their own purposes and something else? That would be a breach of GDPR. So I have to make sure, because the GDPR is not present in the United States, so perhaps I need to make sure that in our contract, when I bought the services of a data processor, I have to tell them that, you know, look, I want you to delete that. And the good thing is that Microsoft, Google, all of these big companies, they have data processing agreements already there for download, because in many instances, Google, even Google Analytics, acts as a data processor. So for example, let's take Amazon's website. If Amazon is tracking their user behavior using Google Analytics, I'm not saying they do, I don't know if they do or not, but if they were to do, then Google would be acting as a data processor on their behalf. And Google has all of that sorted, the data processing agreement. They are very good in that, and they make sure that they comply with the EU GDPR to ensure that they can offer their services to businesses. Still, after so many years, there are so many agencies, especially marketing agencies, who are not aware that they even need a data processing agreement. Direct marketing information is going front and back between businesses and their agencies, their marketing agencies, and that just shows whether or not a business cares about their audience or not. Because if I didn't care about my audience, I wouldn't care what ConvertKit is going to go do with your email addresses. Like, they can provide the services to me and they can use your personal data and do something else as well. Like, I wouldn't care. But because of the GDPR, because of this beautiful thing GDPR, I am accountable. And that's why I mean that GDPR pushes you to do things that you should be doing anyway. So today's core message, guys, is that the business that promises a purpose or an end goal of service to the consumer is the controller, while the processor just helps the controller to carry out the business activity. For the data controller to secure themselves a real and pragmatic data processing agreement, a contract, is ultra important to ensure ethical use of data, which I just mentioned in the last example. Now I'm just going to give you a pro tip, and I'm not going to make this video way too long. If you want to write up a data processing agreement, you don't need to pay 257 euros per hour to a lawyer to do that for you. You can copy paste the GDPR article on data processing agreements and answer each section to write up a data processing agreement on your means. For example, when do you want the data to be deleted? Who is the data controller? Who is the data processor? Are there going to be sub-processes involved? You know, we're going to make a separate video on sub-processes as well, and many businesses sub-processes involved, by the way. Either do it on blank Word or use a template with easy language. Afterwards, once you have written down and answered the questions of the GDPR, get a lawyer to review the contract to polish it up. Vice versa is always counterproductive. That may bite back in case of a data breach. However, the vice versa is actually the way it is mostly done. You take the GDPR, answer the questions, and then get your legal team, your DPO, to review it actually. So yes, that was it for today, guys. I hope you liked this video.